So, a very, very special guest today. This is, I think, episode 5 here for the Listen Up, You May Learn Something Today podcast. And with Ed Reynolds. Ed, you want to kind of talk about maybe a little bit about you that, the average person, doesn't know?
Man, where do I start? Been in Cleveland for the last 6.5 years, but originally from North Carolina, right outside of Greensboro. Grew up kind of all over the place, up and down the East Coast. I was born at the tail end of my dad's football career, so he was playing with the New York Giants. So I lived in Hackensack, New Jersey for a while. His hometown is in Virginia, lived in Virginia for a long time. And then my dad worked for the NFL league office that's based out of New York City. You're not living in New York City with a family of 6. So we lived I lived right outside of Princeton, New Jersey.
Okay.
So I've known and been accustomed to the Northeastern lifestyle, the snow,
yeah,
the attitude that comes with Northeastern native people. So that was home for a while. Then my family lived down in Florida for a little bit. And then obviously I did my undergrad out in California at Stanford University out in Palo Alto, which was great, probably one of the best decisions I ever made in my life up to this date. Was taking that jump for 3,000 miles away from home and away from the family and doing that. And from there, got drafted to the Philadelphia Eagles in 2014. Played there under Chip Kelly, was there for 2 years. Philly holds a special place in my heart because for me it was a lot of firsts for me.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, first football team,
mm-hmm.
first career,
mm-hmm.
First my own apartment, first time I had my own car. A lot of firsts in that city.
Nice.
And I really, really love the people, the food, the culture,
yeah,
the music scene.
Nice.
And then in 2016 came here to Cleveland and have been here ever since. Played here for 2 years, got hurt, jumped around for a while. For the longest time, Cleveland was only for me when it was warm. I would be here because I'd be chasing other things, whether it be in Florida or back out in California during the off seasons.
Yeah.
I lived in Atlanta for a little bit of time, playing in a startup league, the Alliance for American Football, before it went bankrupt after 7 weeks.
Yeah.
But I always kept a place here because I found my soulmate here.
Yeah.
Olivia Stone.
Mm-hmm.
She's from here, from Chardon. We have a son now, Micah. So I've now can confidently call Cleveland home.
Yeah.
So it's been great. And then I started a business here with my business partner, Roger Jones, Amplio Global. We're a consulting firm. So we call Cleveland home, do a lot of traveling outside of Cleveland, but really try to have a focus here. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah.
In a short amount of time. There's a lot of things to dive in there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, that's cool, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you lived multiple lives. The average person may not be able to say that they've accomplished that in Stanford too. I was kind of doing a little homework on you, and yeah, that's I mean, not many people. I haven't met too many people who say they went to Stanford, so that alone is an amazing feat in itself. But okay, all right. Well, so I'm gonna get started. I'm gonna ask the first question I ask every guest. What motivates you?
Man, I think, especially after the birth of my son 4 months ago, I think my why, reflecting back on it, my why has always changed. When I went out, even in high school, knowing what my why was, and a lot of it is hey, look, I'm still having fun. I'm enjoying my classmates, and I'm enjoying being a high school kid. Even back then, I always had the dream of, I want to play professionally. So when it came to football, I took things very seriously. I was one of the kids that liked to practice because I understood very early on that whether it's high school, college, or pros, you only have a finite amount of games that you play in a season. So you practice 80% of the time, play games 20% of the time. When you get to the pros, it's 70% meetings, walkthroughs, 10% 15% practice, and the rest of it is games, right? You only get so many showcases, especially if your team isn't making the playoffs every year. And especially with the lifespan of an NFL player, I think now it's under 2 years. So understanding that, I think I always liked the process of putting in the work during practice because I knew that I was going to get a lot more of those opportunities. So I think it was always up for a long time. My why was, I want to play in the NFL. That was my goal. I want to play. It's funny enough, I look back on it, I even skipped like college. I was like, forget college. I want to go straight to the pros. Looking back on it, I was way naive when thinking about that. But in the end, I think even when I got to the pros, it was, okay, I want to be the best football player that I can be, whatever that looks like, whether that's a Hall of Famer or whether that's an all-pro, a Pro Bowler, a starter, whatever it might be. I think every year my goals change. I learned that at Stanford really early on. Our strength coach, his name is Shannon Turley, he taught us about SMART goals and setting goals that were measurable and you could put like a timetable on them and understanding what the process was to reach those. So for me, it was, my first year in the league was just like, my goal was to make the roster. Understand that, like, yeah, I'm a 5th round draft pick. Making the team is not guaranteed. And in that first year, I actually got cut and was put on practice squad. And it was a huge eye-opening moment for me. Because I went from being an all-conference player, all-American, I have NCAA records, to being humbled in a big way. So it made me reassess exactly what I needed to do to be successful to just the first level before I could think about being, the all-pro guy or even just the starter.
Yeah.
And so my why grew, and I would say now today, what motivates me is my son, and understanding that everything that I'm trying to build within our business, every decision that I make, every interaction that I have, the network that I'm building, is for him.
Yeah.
Leaving something behind for him, something that he can be proud of his dad, legacy.
Yeah.
In the end, but now having the living embodiment in front of me every day, it just makes it work a lot harder.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And you kind of touched on something, and having a goal with an actual plan or something that's attainable and achievable. Just because sometimes I think people will throw out, here's my goals, and it's just that, sometimes it's an unrealistic goal for people. Like, hey, I'm going to make $1 million a year next year, right? It's like, okay, well, how are you gonna start? I don't know, but I'm gonna make $1 million. It's like, when you set like an unrealistic goal and you don't achieve it, right? Then you just you give up like 3 days in because you're just like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to achieve this, So.
No, and then you don't have a way to like hold yourself accountable. Yeah. So like, I'll give you an example. For me, like one thing was my freshman year, I wanted to get to like 200 pounds or like 195 pounds, I think. All right, well, what am I gonna do to gain that weight? Well, I broke it down to like 6 process goals. And those 6 process goals were, I have to, drink X amount of ounces of water a day. I had to, what else goes into that? I have to make sure I get 8 hours of recovery sleep a night. Making sure that I, eat or had snacks in my bag throughout the day where I'm going to class where I can actually like continue to just up my food intake. Yeah. And those, the little things, the attention to detail, I think is one thing that you learn really early on in sports. Yeah. But then especially at the professional level, even at like if you're a big Power 5 school, I wouldn't even say that. Let's say college football in general. Even D3, there's attention to detail that has to be had. Yeah. Because the higher you move up, the gap between the athleticism and the skill starts to close. Yeah. Right? Obviously, you have the freaks. Aaron Donald, freak. Odell Beckham, freak. Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, freaks in their own way. And but so it comes down to the attention to detail of the preparation and how you take care of your body and knowing what your opponent's going to do or what they're trying to do to you. It's those little things that I learned very early on in football that also carries over into the business as well.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. Yeah. Again, I didn't play anywhere near a high level as you. Was able to play ACHA college hockey, and yeah, it kind of similar, right? Where I'm high school hockey. I'm able to do all these things, right? And then you go to college and you see a guy who's twice your size, twice your height, and he's as fast as you. He has the same hands as you. He reads the ice the same way as you. It's like, oh wow, how do I conquer that? Because he was the best, where he was coming from. And I think, I was definitely humbled. That's for sure. Similar, got cut my freshman year and came back the next year just with a goal like, hey, listen, I'm going to be on the team. I'm going to do this. I'm going to, so I was working out every day and doing, what I needed to do. So, yeah.
Yeah. I know it's one of those things where, like, I think after my first year and getting cut and going to practice squad, I think the biggest thing that, I forget who told it to me. Somebody in our locker room was like, hey, look, in the end, everyone in this locker room was the man at some point.
Yeah. Yep.
High school, college,
mm-hmm.
you were the man.
Mm-hmm.
And so, okay, you're trying to find your footing here at the pro level, but the biggest differentiator outside of, preparation and being available and taking care of your body and all these things is confidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Honestly, you gotta have confidence in your abilities. And the moment that you can still play with the same swag that you had when you were the all conference, all American, and transition that over to, okay, well, look, I'm playing with guys that I've idolized for a long time. Like, I got to play against and with guys I used to watch on TV. My first career start was against the New England Patriots and Tom Brady.
Wow.
And we beat them in Foxborough. It was amazing. But being able to, like, understand that, okay, he's reading what I'm doing. I can't be, like, starstruck right now.
Mm-hmm.
I got to go and do my thing. And I will say it's probably one of the coolest things I've seen in sports is his, like, entry onto the field. We're out there pregame, DBs are doing, like, our drills. Music's been playing. All of a sudden you kind of realize, oh, the music stopped. And then all of a sudden you hear Jay-Z's public service announcement. And then it drops, and the crowd goes crazy, and he kind of runs right by us. And I'm like, damn, that's cool. That's cool. But it's one of those things where at Foxborough, we had to have everything go right for us to even have a chance. And Gronk didn't play. I don't think Julian Edelman played, or maybe he played for a quarter and got hurt. And it was a tight, but we blocked a punt for a touchdown, returned a punt for a touchdown, had a pick, and still I think we only won by 3.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's one of those situations where I think confidence is huge, but at the same time it's kind of like that balancing act, because you only gain confidence with reps.
Yeah.
And so, but you have to earn your way on the field to gain the confidence that you need to have. And some guys come in, I think, like we saw last year in the NFL, like Sauce Gardner, rookie, all pro. He came in with like that dog and that chip on his shoulder, where he just naturally had that confidence up front. Hey, I'm a corner. I'm gonna get beat sometimes. I can't win every rep.
Yeah.
But the goal is to be perfect. But take advantage of my opportunities and do that, right? Like I got to play with Richard Sherman at Stanford for a year. He was I forgot I went to Stanford. And that was like his biggest thing. It was like, hey, look, I'm not gonna win every rep, but when the plays come my way, gotta make the play.
Yeah.
And it's all about those situations. Situational football is a term that I think is getting used more, but for a long time I don't think a lot of like the casual fan understood. Is that in any given game, there's ebbs and flows. It's not ever going to be just. Very rarely is it super dominant on both sides, just knocking people off. Yeah. There's the ebbs and flows, and it's those couple of possessions per game where you see a drop pick or you see a drop pass, and it was something that was like wide open, and the coaches schemed it up, and they made the perfect call at the right time. And if you can't make those, that could be it. It could be as simple as like calling the timeout the wrong time. Yeah. We've seen that plenty of times in the last couple of years. So yeah, it's big on for guys just to be confident. And I think in general life, being able to be confident in your own skill set.
Yeah.
And being able to be confident in what you're trying to achieve. And that's the confidence and self-esteem, I think, are huge to be able to be successful.
Yeah. I listen, I can't agree more. I think that translates into obviously sports, but every single, everyday life, right? Having that confidence and not only that, just realizing also what you're capable of, and you make it a conscious effort to, to chase after that every single day. I think that's so important. So, okay. All right, perfect. So next question I do have is, so would you rather have $2,500 a week for the rest of your life or get $1.5 million right now?
Is it tax-free?
So in this scenario, it is tax-free.
Man, okay, so I'm 31 right now.
Uh-huh.
I see myself living for a long time. I'd probably take the 2,500.
Okay.
At the same time, within my business, we have we work with a lot of startups, and what we call like investor relations. Try to connect the dots. For me, being out in Silicon Valley and being around a lot of those VCs, and I have teammates and former classmates that are now in that space. And then having that, and then being in the NFL and using that platform to be able, you get invited to a lot of like cool events and meetings, and get the exposure to a bunch of really interesting people that I'll never forget. Like my freshman year at Stanford, I'm at a frat party, meet this guy. He goes like, "Hey, can I get you something?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll take a drink." Cool. 2 weeks later, find out that the guy that gave me the drink is the same guy that was making Snapchat.
Wow.
I look back on that and I wish I just had given him $1,500 out of my Pell Grant money.
Yeah, exactly, right.
To be like, hey, But so within the business, we get to work with a lot of really, really interesting startups and get to see a lot of different deal flow. That I can also see taking 1.5 now, and in 24 to 36 months, also being able to flip that into a large sum. So I'm torn on that, but I'll go with my first one, say 2,500. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So would your initial lifestyle change whatsoever with the $2,500 a week?
No.
Okay.
No. I'm not a flashy type of guy.
Yeah.
I enjoy my lifestyle the way it is now. The only thing I might do more of is, one thing I want to do with my son is have our family, like, I want him to see as much as possible. Yeah. And so see as much of this country and also other countries. So we definitely go into like a little bucket for more travel. Nice. But other than that, like, you're not going to see me in the crazy new car or trying to get a crazy house or anything like that. It would definitely be that plus going towards like some investment stuff that we want to do.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing. I think it's just more of, what fits everyone's lifestyle. I'm kind of torn. I think there's a number, right? Like, $2,500 a week, obviously it's more than $1,000, right? So I'd probably be leaning more towards taking $2,500 a week, but if it was only $1,000, and $1 million, right? Or, 750, whatever it is, I may lean towards that lump sum. So I think there's that, balance, but, no, and obviously, I do real estate and have some sort of passive income, and I think leaning towards it, I'd probably go with 1.5. I know kind of, where I could place that, money, but $2,500 a week, not, stress-free, the last part, stress-free, right? That's a game changer, just because although you have passive income in real estate, there's always something, that comes with that.
You're managing, it's always the management of people, expectations, emotions.
Yeah.
You kind of turn to a therapist sometimes, right? You're not just the landlord.
Relationships, and
You're hearing
yeah.
everything. Everyone's problems that they're dealing with.
Yes.
That on top of what you're dealing with.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think it's really about like making that decision on the $2,500 is really, you know, okay. Do you want to depend on how old you are?
Yeah.
Are you
okay?
Factor. Like for me, like I said, I'm 31, and I'm okay having that accumulate and being really good when I'm 50.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still.
True.
I plan. My goal is to still be like a young 50. You know, like I said, I'm not going to slow down and I want to still do everything I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I might not run as much. I might not sprint as much as I do. I might not try to play the real sports.
Yeah.
So, you know, but I'll never say never. You know, if my body feels, I'll listen to my body.
There you go.
And go from there.
There you go. I like that. I like that. All right. So, how much did your mindset change from playing college football to going to the NFL?
So I think I was blessed having a dad that did it. That I think I had the mindset. I didn't have to deal with all the extra distractions.
Yeah.
So like for me, his biggest like words of wisdom for me were, you know, show up to work every day. Make yourself available every day. And that's a fine line, especially in the NFL, because you know you want to. I don't think there's many jobs out there where you are evaluated every day, and you can come in and have a job at 6 a.m. and be unemployed at noon. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
That's it. There's not many jobs out there that have that type of that spectrum or that duality, right? And so for me it was, and you have to balance that, because all right, let's say you don't feel well, like get a tight hamstring. You're like, oh, but I set this goal, I'm gonna show up to work every day. I know I can go out there and give them something.
Yeah.
Well, is your something gonna look really bad on film?
Yeah.
Because it's this cliche thing that you hear every time from football guys, like, oh, the eye in the sky doesn't lie. Legitimately in the NFL, that's you getting evaluated every single day.
Yeah.
So if you look like something is hurt and you don't look like the player that they expect you to be,
yeah,
you've given them cause to cut you.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things I had a lot of veterans in our locker room in Philly that was like, hey, look, if something doesn't feel right and you can't go out there and be the player you want to be, don't practice.
Yeah.
And there's a fine line, right? That you have to kind of like ego check yourself.
Yeah.
Especially when you're a guy like trying to fight to make the team. Because it's different, treated differently if you're a first rounder or a guy they have a lot of money invested already on the roster, and you can take a vet, they call it like a vet day.
Yeah.
Compared to the guy that's like, what are you doing? My dad always told me, he was like, you can't make the club in the tub. And I said, okay, wow. I get that. That's very straightforward, punch you in the mouth.
Yeah.
But it is that fine line. And so for me, it was always about, he taught me early on, make yourself available, show up to work every day. He was big on like teaching me like visualization. So like, before games, it was, hey, take some time, meditate, and play the game out in your head.
Yeah. So
that when you actually step foot on the field, in college on Saturdays and the pros, whether it's a Sunday, Monday, Thursday, Saturday game, whatever time of the year, that nothing's a real surprise to you.
Yeah.
Right? But like I said, I think the biggest thing was just not having the distractions. I didn't have to study or write papers. I didn't have to even think about, oh, well, am I experiencing college life?
Yeah.
Am I taking that into consideration? I'll be honest, if you ask any of my teammates in college, they'd be like, yeah, he would. They'd probably say I went out a little bit and experienced that, but a lot of it was like I was very early on. Mindset was I'm gonna make it to the pros. So
Yeah.
I was spending extra time in the training room, or I mean, even at the time I had a hyperbaric chamber in my dorm room.
Wow.
I had someone that allowed me to rent one, and I had it, and it was a huge benefit. But I'd be in there, and I'd have teammates come in my room and knock, like, you good in there? Are you reverse aging? Like, what's going on? I'm like, yeah, no, I'm feeling good for the next day, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's just more so really having it be like when you're a pro, understanding like this is your livelihood. This is my livelihood now. This is how I'm going to pay my bills.
Yeah.
This is how I'm going to do the other things that I want to do.
Yeah.
Big thing for me when I got to the pros was like I wanted to travel immediately. So like first off season, we had our exit meetings, and I was on a plane.
Wow. That's
so
awesome.
I got to do that, right?
Yeah.
It afforded me that opportunity.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think it's just one of those things where for me, I think my mindset was already there. It was just now there's no excuse. There's no other thing pulling me in any other direction. I can just completely focus on football.
Oh, that's awesome, man. No, I love it. I love to hear it. Love to hear it. All right. So, what would be your best financial advice for college players going into the NFL?
So, the college landscape is changing a lot, especially with this NIL.
Yeah, exactly.
This NIL business right now is insane, and I love it for the collegiate athlete, I should say student athlete. But being a student athlete feels like a job. Yeah. And you're making a lot of money for these institutions and for your athletic department and everything else. Yeah. And so to be able to have people benefit off of that, who are putting in that work. I mean, sometimes I think back on some of the workouts I did during the summer or the 6 a.m. runs, and you legitimately like, yo, I can't believe I put my body through that. But you always showed up. Yeah. And it was day after day after day, and then you did it with a group, like especially in the team sports, you did it with a group of guys or a group of girls, and everyone's pushing each other, everyone's holding each other accountable, everyone's doing this together. Yeah. And so I think you rally behind that. Yeah. I think right now, the biggest thing in the NIL space, because kids are making money sooner, that might not be the $1 million signing bonus for a first round draft pick, or even, the $100,000 signing bonus for the 7th round. It's probably more than that now. Honestly, I don't know what the sliding scale is. Yeah. But is truly just like the education piece. Yeah. Financial literacy, knowing learn about taxes, learn about investing, learn about 401ks and HRAs, and learning about all of that early, so that you don't have to rely on hiring someone to do that. Now, don't get me wrong, you're probably going to end up hiring someone because like I said, you want to focus on the task at hand, which is making the team, which is succeeding, which is when you get to a certain point, building your brand, setting those goals. Oh, I want to be the best wide receiver, the best quarterback in the NFL, or I want to be an Olympian, or whatever it might be, right? But you want to be educated enough that you can see if something's not right, and you're not being taken advantage of. I think with that, college and pros is one of the biggest. I didn't have to deal with it, but I definitely saw some teammates that had to deal with it. Is like you can't save everyone, so don't try to take on a bunch of extra bills and pay everyone else's bills, just because you quote unquote have it now. And really, I think just take some time to just like open up a book and just read a little bit about it. There's a couple that I read coming out of the draft. It was like Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is a great one for me. Very good. Very good book. And man, I'm forgetting the other one. There's a couple of them that I got, and I was like, oh, okay, like this is eye-opening. Yeah. And I took the time to make sure that I read it. And I had a couple of teammates at the time. One that's like still one of my really good friends, named Jalen Watkins. played at the University of Florida. We got drafted the same year. He was a DB as well. We played in the same. We spent a lot of time together because of that. And I left the Eagles. I got released right before they made their Super Bowl run, and so he was there. He's Super Bowl champion, everything.
Nice.
But he was one that also, like, we were kind of like giving each other books to read. Hey, look, take a look at this, take a look at this. And so when you have people that you're spending a lot of time with also with the same mindset, it helps.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like the people you keep around you definitely, like it's the nature versus nurture.
Yeah.
And I truly believe like there's a bit of both every time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I think the older you get, it's more nurture in the fact of like, who do you keep in your circle? Who do you trust? Who do you hang out with? What are their goals in life?
Yeah.
And I think if they match with what you want to do, it just helps elevate you.
Yeah.
Especially if they're doing it well or you're doing it well and they're struggling, it's always that feedback. Because a lot of it you can only get from like experience.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, yeah, I think just education, like educate yourself as much as you can, and then just be smart about investing, but definitely look at investment opportunities, and like risk mitigation, so that you're not hedging your entire signing bonus on one thing to come through, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a lot of it, especially now early on, because I mean, there's a lot of college athletes making a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like Olivia Dunn at LSU, I think she's the highest paid female athlete. I mean, I think she's making more than some like professional female.
Yeah.
She's making more money than some male athletes. You know what I'm saying? So.
She's not even going to classes from what I heard, because she's just so, she's such a, and again, I don't know how, true that story is, but people say that she doesn't go to classes just because she's so recognizable and people are coming up to her all the time and stuff like that.
Yeah, and for her especially, I mean, I she's in a sport that doesn't have a professional league.
Yeah.
Right? She's a gymnast.
Yeah.
And from what I know, Olympians don't get paid that much.
Yeah.
Like you can't live off being an Olympian unless you're like her and you have a bunch of brand endorsement deals, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, I think for those that need to take advantage of it, but like I love NIL because there are a lot of student athletes that their in stardom in the lights is in college. They are top of the top. The home crowd loves them, and depending on where you're at, like, I mean, Columbia, if you're Ohio State,
oh yeah,
and you're, cream of the crop. There's a lot of people, fans, boosters, whoever you want to say, that will rally behind you. Hey, what are you trying to do?
Exactly,
we want you to be the face of this. We want we want your name like this. And then after that, you might not have anything going for you because like, all right, your playing career is done. But in the end, you were able to capture that value when you had it.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of value in that. And I'm glad that the NCAA, is the system right? Like completely correct? That's to be seen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. So who has had the biggest impact in your life growing up?
Man. Probably easy. He's probably my dad.
Okay.
Just because he lived the life that I wanted to live.
Yeah.
Right? And his story is pretty amazing in itself. Like, he was a DN academic All-American at University of Virginia. Also was ROTC. And in his mind, his whole thing was, I'm going military. So when he got out, he entered the Army Reserves. And out of nowhere got a call from the New England Patriots and was like, hey, come try out.
Yeah.
My dad was like, okay, it's an opportunity. So he went, tried out, had a great tryout that obviously I'm not there, so I can't speak to this story secondhand. Tried out, had a great tryout, but didn't make the team like in that moment. 2 weeks later, they call him as he's about to like report to Fort Bragg.
Wow.
And they go, hey, come we're going to sign you.
Wow.
And so my dad, his entire career, this is before like the whole numbers thing in the NFL, you could wear it whatever you wanted.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you were a linebacker and you got a 90 number, you were getting cut.
Okay.
My dad was given 95.
Okay.
And he had that his entire career and played 10 years.
Wow.
And had no intention. So he would play during the season, and off season hit, he'd go and report to his Army Reserve duties, and then so he was nonstop, and someone that I really looked up to because he had no real intention of playing, but he was given the opportunity and took advantage of that.
That's awesome.
And I think it's one of those things where you always take advantage of your your opportunities, and he did that, and just taught me a lot. Taught me a lot about taking care of my body. Taught me a lot, like I said, showing up to work. Taught me a lot about what it was to try to make an impact in your community. He really cares about his hometown, Martinsville, Virginia.
Yeah. And
was always trying to do something to make an impact there for kids or for families. But also learned a lot of what not to do.
Yeah.
Figuring out, okay, like maybe some bad business decisions. A lot of guys do it. Most guys do it. You make a couple bad ones. But you live to fight another day. You figure it out. You learn from it. You adjust. You go on. So definitely because he lived the life that I wanted, and that I got the chance to do for 4 years. And he's the one that instilled in me the value of like networking. And it made me really sit back and think like, not everyone is comfortable going up to someone and introducing themselves and having a conversation, right? Yeah. But also making sure that like I'm going up to you and I'm having this conversation, and I'm not looking for I'm not trying to make this a business transaction.
Yeah, exactly.
I value relationships. And so when you build the relationship, and if something comes from that relationship genuinely, I think those are the best best scenarios that you can hope for. The genuine, organic, and people don't feel like, oh, he's just nice, or he's just cool with me because he wants something from me.
Exactly.
Right. But he definitely helped lead me, teach me how to navigate a room.
Nice.
Which is something that I found and still do to this day. It's super important for me in my business because a lot of it is networking. Facilitating. How can I connect the dots for people? Collaborate with different people to bring greater value. Yeah. And so I think that's probably one of the biggest things he really showed me, and then he taught me. Yeah. And then I got to carry it on. So. But nice. It's definitely something I think is valuable for anyone. Yeah.
No. Yeah. I mean, I'm a big, networker, and just, I think, people helping people. I think, like you said, going in with the not, okay, what can I get out of this person, and okay, they can't offer me anything, therefore I don't need a relationship with this person. It's, listen, I learn, new things from everyone, and I'm no better than anyone, and I really am a big component with networking. It's not what you know, it's who you know, and it didn't really I didn't really understand what that really meant until I started. I went to Las Vegas, and I was really in college and understanding that, like, hey, I'm getting opportunities that I may not be qualified for, but that person knows, likes, and trusts me. And it's so huge to listen. Don't burn any bridges either, right? Like, absolutely. You don't like someone for whatever reason. Try to at least, I don't know, make it. Don't end on bad terms, right? I mean, in real estate, realtor and also landlord, right? You can only imagine, how many times I've been burned, but I'll never kind of let that person know. It's in the back of my mind, like, all right, well, hey, my guard's up the next time I deal with that person. But I think that's so important for networking and to burn bridges, because life is just so unique, and you just never ever know who you're going to come in contact with, where that person's going to go, where you may go.
No, absolutely. I think especially in like the context for like Amplia Global, like the sports world is small.
Mm-hmm.
It seems huge,
Mm-hmm.
but what usually happens, and you see it in like with coaches,
Mm-hmm.
right? Most leagues just recycle coaches.
Yeah.
They end up
exactly
because
right.
they have a known track record. They know someone they can be vouched for. It's the same thing on the business side. Sponsorship people, ticketing, activation. You all know each other. Come in contact with someone, whether it's at a sports conference or throughout the season, or different like collaborative initiatives that like here in Cleveland they have like what is it? It's called like the Cle 3. So they have the top 3 sports teams that kind of like have these different initiatives. They work together.
Nice.
That you're gonna cross paths.
Yeah.
And so I think one thing that someone recently said to me, and like it's just an additive to what you said, in the sense of like it's not what you know, it's who you know. But they took it a step further. It was like it's how you know them.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, but that just speaks to what you said. Like, can they vouch for your character?
Yeah.
Do they know you because you're an asshole?
Yeah, exactly.
And you have a bad reputation.
Exactly.
Do they know you because some people, like you said, you'll choose to deal with someone because you know that they get it done.
Yeah. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're like, hey, I know what I'm dealing with, but this person executes every time.
Yeah.
All right, I'm making the decision. I'm making the choice to I'm going to work with this person, or work with this entity, or whatever it might be, right? So you make those decisions all the time in business and in life. But I think what's great is, sometimes some people are in situations where they're not granted the freedom to make that decision. Like, you're just put in a situation and you have to deal with it no matter what. I think being a business owner, like, one of the greatest things that I love about it is I get to choose who I want to work with.
Yeah. That's really
and I say work with, not work for, right? It's not, it's collaborative, and it's who do you choose to spend time with? Because really it's all about like time. And if I look at my phone and I'm like screening calls because I don't feel like talking to this person today, that's someone I probably shouldn't work with.
Yeah.
I want to be able to go have dinner or coffee, random, talk about everything but business.
Yeah.
And then when we come to business, it's still the same type of feeling, which is the most, not saying it's going to be like that all the time, but that's what I look for. Yeah. And so it's been really nice being able to have that and do that. But yeah, networking is massive skill.
Couldn't agree more. It's almost like I tell everyone that too.
Oh yeah. He's not lying to you.
All right, so let's move on to the next question. If you could get dinner with one person in this, they could be either living or have passed on, celebrities, non-celebrities, who would that one person be and why?
Man, I've been asked this question before, and I think I've given a different answer every single time. I think right now, it would probably be Muhammad Ali.
Okay.
I grew up, like, I got exposed to him very early on. It was like one of my dad's favorite athletes, and I learned, his story and his journey. And I think just someone who, you can learn a lot from someone who, first off, was elite, but also had conviction and stood for something, even though it was highly controversial, stood for something and didn't really waver from that. Yeah. You can learn a lot from someone like that. One of the terms you always hear is like, if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. Yeah. Right? So I think being able just to learn like his mindset. Yeah. And learn like, okay, look, you went through a lot, from, the name change, religion, the U.S. government coming down on your head, being a champion, being another champ, like coming back to take your championship back, living these monumental moments and being a massive figure and not letting that stop him from being him.
Yeah.
Right? Genuinely being him at all times.
Yeah.
Which I think which is very rare to find in most people. And so I just think I think a dinner with him would be like super entertaining, but also I feel like I would show up to dinner with a notepad.
Yeah.
And like 3 pens. Because I don't think I could take enough notes of like just the gems he's giving. And so yeah, I think Muhammad Ali is definitely the top of my list of someone I would love to. I mean, I would take just a coffee, but if I get a whole dinner with him, yeah, we're able to do some things.
That's awesome. No, that's really cool. I love it. Okay, so I know you kind of talked about travel. So what has been the most underrated city in your opinion? What has been the most overrated city in your opinion? And what has been the best quote unquote NFL football environment stadium to play in?
Man, okay, can I go college and okay, so I would say most underrated, but it's more so like it's really tough, especially when you're going to play in a city, to have any time to like really go explore it, other than because you're on a business trip, right? I will say, just because like I think the fan base is amazing, and there is something about playing there, especially later in the year when it's freezing cold and it's a wind tunnel. Buffalo is really cool. Okay. I think I got really lucky in the NFL to play for 2 franchises that I think fan bases are like top 5 in the league, and I put Buffalo in the top 5 as well. So now I will say at the same time, there's like nothing to do in Buffalo, but to go there and play, especially now that as good as they are, it's a really fun place, man. And I think classic, but like Lambeau, my first time going to Lambeau was like, you feel like you're going to like football Mecca. Yeah. And it was like 18 degrees and snow, and we had guys on our team that were like, doing the whole no sleeve thing, but they would really cool. I never forget this. Malcolm Jenkins and Darren Sproles, they did this thing with like diving suits, like swimsuits. So they had it before we took the trip. They like cut the legs off and cut the arms off, but like as long as your core is warm, the rest of your appendages are warm. So they zippered it up, and it was tight here in the core. And those dudes were like, that's probably the best decision they ever made. And so that was just really special because, it is Lambeau is Lambeau. Man, I'll say, I don't really have an overrated one. Like, I think every city has its unique vibe and feel, and I can't say there's a place that I went to that was like, it didn't live up to the hype. Yeah. Like, I'll be honest, I thought before we went there, I was like, Dallas isn't going to live up to it. And then I went there and I was like, oh, this is nice. So, I mean, I think, and even for me in college, like, I got to play in the 100th Rose Bowl, which was amazing. I got to play in the LA Coliseum, which was awesome. It's USC. But one of my favorite stadiums to play in college was Austin at Oregon in Eugene. Okay. It's something different. It's kind of like, you remember, I'm gonna take it back. Remember like Lion King? Yeah. Like when young Simba and there's like the stampede coming down? I remember we were down there doing warm-ups and they opened the gates for this, and the student body, it just feels that way because it's like it's like kind of in the ground. Okay. So all of a sudden they just like came down, and I'm talking about, I was like, someone's gonna bust their head open. Yeah. And everyone made it down. And I'm like, yo, this is gonna be wild today. Wild. And so it was really cool. Because for me, like, I'm from the East Coast. I had never been to Pullman, Washington, or Eugene, Oregon. Some of the, I've never been to to Utah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it was really cool, and I think that Oregon stuck in my mind since my freshman year.
That's awesome.
For sure.
I love it.
For sure. Did I miss one? Did I miss a question?
So best environment, kind of,
Yeah. I think. I mean, it's really special to play. Like I said, a home game here and a home game in Philly
Mm-hmm.
are amazing just because of the fan bases.
Mm-hmm.
It was something really special, and I know it's not like a home or away game, but the 100th Rose Bowl was different.
Yeah.
I mean, that game has so much history, and I think we had like 105,000,
Nice.
107,000. Like, it was sold out, and I think it's the biggest crowd I've ever played in front of too.
That's crazy.
It was insane.
100,000 people, man, that's a lot of people. So,
Yeah.
To be watching, that's awesome. All right, so 5 years from now, in a perfect world, what goals would you like to be working on? What goals would you like to have already accomplished?
Man, 5 years from now, I think simply on the business side would be just continuing to scale, hiring more people, being able to take on more projects. One of the hardest things to do right now is to have to say no, just for the simple that we're at max capacity of like what we can do and be good at our job. So I think scalability, continuing to grow, really for me, even more so trying to like look at the startup space, especially right now because it's, sports tech is so hot right now.
Yeah.
And then, continuing to do, I love like doing things internationally and being a part of different things internationally. Like one thing I didn't mention earlier, but like I spent a year abroad in South Africa when I was in high school.
Oh, wow.
Like after my junior football season, which was a huge decision for me because, usually even back then it was the time where you go after your junior year. It's even earlier now, but back then, after your junior year or after your junior season, you kind of hit that combine tour, trying to get like, oh, I'm trying to be an Under Armour All-American or a U.S. Army All-American, and I had to really sit back and reflect and contemplate, like, all right, do I feel like I'm going to miss out on something that's going to change the trajectory of what I want to do later on? And I came to the decision that I don't know when I'm going to have another opportunity to live in another country for almost a year, experience that culture, and say that I did it like this young.
Yeah.
So I made the decision to go there. And so I went to school, it's a town called Pietermaritzburg. It's close to like Durban, which is like an East Coast like beach town.
Okay.
But I got to go to Johannesburg. I didn't make it to Cape Town, but I mean, it was one of those situations and experiences that like I'll never forget.
Yeah.
And I want to make my way back. Funny story. So the World Cup was coming to South Africa in 2010. I went in 2008. And the families that I met there had tickets. They were like, hey, you make it back over here, we got tickets, you go to any game you want. I was like, oh, bet. And I got, in 2010, is my freshman summer at Stanford, Jim Harbaugh was our head coach. There was no way I was gonna go ask him, hey, do you mind if I take a couple of weeks at a summer training and go to the World Cup?
Yeah.
If you know anything about Jim Harbaugh, it's ultra competitive.
Yeah.
A lot of people can say that he likes to teeter on the edge. I saw that firsthand. But at the same time, I can't really. We won a lot of games.
Yeah.
He changed the culture at Stanford, along with the rest of his staff. So So I can never say a bad thing about Jim Harbaugh
Yeah.
in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there was no way I was going to go to him and be like, hey, yo, yeah, I'm going to take a vacation to go here.
Mm-hmm.
I'll come back and everything will be cool for training camp or whatever.
Yeah.
So I missed out on that, which
Mm-hmm.
sucks. But it was an experience that I'm glad that I made that decision. I look back and I'm like, okay, I did that. Now, was I high school American? No. Did I do that? Did I think I might have been able to earn more scholarships?
Mm-hmm.
But I earned the ones that I was supposed to earn.
Yeah.
That's the way I look. Like,
yeah.
I got the ones, I had like 15 to 20 at the time, and I ended up choosing Stanford like kind of right at the end. So it worked out the way it was supposed to work out, right? But yeah, I think going back personally in 5 years, obviously, you know, continuing to be the best dad I can be, the best partner I can be, the best son I can be, you know, just trying to be continuing to have incremental personal growth in a lot of facets. And man, I think in the end is just trying to leave like an imprint on people and on companies and brands, and realizing that like, hey, we can be impactful and disruptive and do it in a really cool way.
Yeah, I like that.
That's mutually beneficial for everyone, and helping everyone reach goals. That's what I'm about, man. I just want to help if you're a company or a brand or a startup or just an individual, and you have dreams and you have goals and you have, like you said, the mindset to attack them, but also have a plan that you want to go get it.
Mm-hmm.
If I can add value in any way, that's the people that I want to work with.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I think that's really in 5 years. Yeah, I think I'll be happy, genuinely happy, if I can do all that.
Nice. I like that. I like that a lot. All right. So what would you say was a turning point in your life? You know, in kind of two parts to that question is, what was a turning point, you know, in your football career where it's like, wow, I could maybe make a career out of this, and a turning point in just, you know, being a successful person, like, wow, okay, actually I can achieve, you know, my goals financially or business wise.
Yeah, I think my aha moment for football was, man, that's a good question. I think my aha moment was really the year so when I got to college, I didn't redshirt my freshman year, but I was really utilized as like you're here, you're a guy that's gonna push our starters, play special teams, get the experience of travel, do all that. There's a lot of value to that. And to me, it clicked in my mind, if I'm not redshirting, like, I'm putting myself on track to, like, I must be doing something right. I'm putting my track to, like, kind of move another step forward to being in the league, right? That's not the case. Don't believe that. You know, all the time. You don't need to not redshirt in order to achieve that. There's a lot of most guys redshirt to get that year of development.
Yeah.
But I did it, and honestly, Harbaugh so nonchalantly told me, like, it was going out to practice. He goes, "Yeah, I'm gonna burn your shirt on Saturday." I go, "Oh, okay, awesome, coach." And it was honestly because I made a point that in camp, no matter what, I can mess a play up, but on film, I'm gonna be flying around, I'm hitting everything moving. And yeah, did I get every play right? No. But man, I was all around just hitting things.
Yeah.
And so that to him was a value. And so so I did that, didn't redshirt my entire first year, which led me into, okay, well, this upcoming spring is gonna be a huge time period for me to, like, make the jump. And I want to I want to gain some first team reps, go do that, and so on and so forth. And I tore my ACL legitimately the last practice before our spring game.
Wow.
And so all of a sudden, I'm starting to do calculations of, like, all right, how long does it take to heal? And I legit had, like, I love couple football movies for me. Remember the Titans and Friday Night Lights? And I had my Booby Miles moment. Like I was like, I'm never gonna play football again. I'll never be the same player. I was doing everything right leading up to that moment. Knocked me back down. I bawled my eyes out that night. I'll never forget it. I went in my dorm room and I'm just crying. And at the time, like, my whole family's across the country. All they can do is call, and I didn't want to be on the phone. I didn't want to talk to anybody. But then I hit a reset. Talked to my dad and my mom, and after talking to my dad, I just hit that reset. Was like, okay, look, no matter what happens, like, this is the reason why I chose to go to Stanford. I didn't, like, if football didn't work out, I get to still be this amazing institution, be around some amazing human beings. And so I was like, okay, cool. And then on top of that, I was like, but now I gave myself my redshirt year back. So now I get to hone in on my football IQ and learning our system and learning defense and learning other offenses. And so going into my sophomore year, I got to actually spend most home games sitting up in the box with our coaching staff, and I would like help chart stuff. But then it also gave me the chance to like ask our defensive coordinator questions, not during games, but like, oh hey, you called this, why? What's the situation? Like I said, the biggest thing in football is situational football. So hold on, what are you thinking about here? What do you think about here? And your perspective on the game changes a lot when you're looking at it like big picture. And so I got to do that my sophomore year. At the same time, I'm building strength in my knee. I spent that entire summer down in Florida doing like my own rehab with my own nutritionist and physical therapist and strength coach. And then I came back and I got to start practicing during our bowl prep. We were playing in the Fiesta Bowl against Oklahoma State that year. And so I got to start practicing with a knee brace on while we were in Arizona prepping. So I'm like, okay, this is awesome. I feel great. You know, first time I get to like kind of like love tap somebody. Feels great. I'm confident in my knee. And so then all of a sudden I come back my redshirt sophomore year, and I'm better than my freshman year. Like I'm reading things. The processing speed is so much faster because I'm seeing everything quicker. I'm like trusting my instincts. I'm going to go make plays. So in that year, I like for most of the year I led the nation in picks. I'm 1 yard and one touchdown off of 2 NCAA records. Interception return yards in the season, I had 301 yards. The record is 302. And I had 3 defensive touchdowns, and the record is 4. It's a sour subject for me because I got called down on the 1 yard line in our Pac-12 championship game that would have given me both records. And so all of a sudden, after that year and doing it, I was like, I can do this. So that was my aha moment in college. I was like, all right, I can go to the pros. And honestly, I almost declared for the draft after that year. Just it was one of those things where I was like, oh, hey, look, my name is hot right now. I'm on Jim Thorpe. Right. I'm on a Jim Thorpe watch list. Out of nowhere, no one was talking about me beforehand. I'm all conference that year. I'm like, oh, I'm feeling it. Let's go. Chose to come back, which I'm grateful for, because I became an all-around better player. Because I still felt like I needed to be a better tackler in space, be able to showcase my leadership a little bit more. And so that was like my aha after that year, just the culmination of that year coming back after a knee injury. And I think my biggest kind of like aha when it comes to like just as a man was one thing I forgot to mention at the beginning as well. Like I went to boarding school when I was 13. And so I lived away from home since 13. And it forced me to mature even faster.
Yeah.
Like I had to do my own laundry.
Mm-hmm.
I had to figure out time management on my own.
Mm-hmm.
If I had these goals when it came to football, like I needed to push myself to go lift a little bit more, to go do drills a little bit more, to go. But then also it really prepped me for what it was going to be like in college.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I did that. Honestly, I thought I was only going to do it for a year because my family was moving, and where we were moving, the football and the school wasn't great in my opinion. So I was like, all right, give me just something to supplement for 1 year.
Yeah.
And so I did it, and I ended up staying, which I look back on, I was like, it's the best. Another one of those situations where the best decision I ever made.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up really quickly.
Yeah.
And it prepped me for everything football in college as a pro,
Mm-hmm.
and then business now. Like I still take a lot of the things I learned when I was 13, 14 years old, and I implement them in my everyday life. And then when I don't do it, I know, I see the result. I'm like, okay, wait, let me not relax. Let me get back on this. I think in the end, like everything for me is a culmination of life choices. And making the right choices showed me things about myself and helped me grow. Making the wrong choices taught me things about myself and helped me grow at the same time as well. You have to fail in order to grow and be. A lot of those things put me in uncomfortable situations, but that's where you get the most growth.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I think just overall, I'm blessed to say like I've lived the life that I've lived, and I know there's still so much more to come, which is the most exciting part for me.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's and you had such a lot of really good nuggets, just kind of learning and getting humbled. And yeah, I think when you're like, oh, I'm on top of the world, right? I'm almost able to set these NCAA records, like I can do anything, and to really take a step back and it's like, well, I'm not ready yet. I mean, that's huge because a lot of people don't think that way, right? A lot of people think like, well, I'm gonna do it my way, and I'm sure there are probably other people who helped you make that decision too.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that I try to explain to people too. Like, you could have raw talent, right? And I was a hockey coach at one point, and you could have raw talent, you could be the best player, but if you're not coachable, right? If you're not teachable, if you don't listen, you're to get to that next level or get to the higher next level, I mean, you see some of these guys who just have raw talent, but they aren't coachable. They're cancers to their team, right?
Yeah.
They get on the team and they just do their own thing. They're better than everybody. They're the ego gets in front of them. A lot of guys don't like to see that, right? Like, other teammates don't like to see that. And once you lose, that respect from your teammates, man, it's tough. So I love the aspect of, how, you just realize what you're capable of, but also realize I'm just not ready yet.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the biggest thing, to go back on the point you just said, like, great teams have great team culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of the best teams are ones that you don't need a coach, whether it's position coach, head coach, or strength coach, to be the one to call out guys for doing something wrong. It's the ones that your brother can say, we don't do that.
Yeah.
Or hey, look, you're not practicing or playing up to our standard. And that accountability between teammates and brothers is what is a huge differentiator for me. Yeah. Like, a lot of times when I was at Stanford, on paper, we should have got mopped by like a lot of USC athletically. If you look at like the recruiting and stars and this and that, better team on paper than us every time. But we just had it where like the culture was built where I think Andrew Luck really says it best. I got to play with him for 2 years, and he's an amazing human being, probably the best football player, especially quarterback that I got to see and practice against live and take that many reps against, which I think helped me become a better player. Was he always talks about like football being a meritocracy.
Okay.
Right, and everything in the game is earned. Like your position, every yard, you got to go out and earn it. And when he said that, man, I think it was my freshman year, maybe my sophomore year. It stuck with me a lot because it's not just football. That's if you want to be successful in business and in life, like go earn it. Don't expect it to be handed to you in any form or fashion. And so, being able to not only hold each other accountable, but then feel like, hey, I have to go earn it every snap, every day, and every decision that I make is going to lead me down this path or this path. Is a huge impact on our team, but also just on every individual.
Yeah.
And no, it's one of those situations where I think our accountability and the attention to detail was a huge differentiator when we played some teams that were like way more talented than us. And it showed. And the biggest thing is like, right, a lot of people you want to be, it's like everything's result driven. You want to see the impact of your decisions immediately. That's not the case all the time, right? We talk about the process. You have to put that process in, and then maybe you see the impact weeks, months, years down. But at least when I was at Stanford, like we saw it within our off season, which was 10 weeks, within our season, which was at the time 12 weeks. That like everything that we decided to do, we're getting immediate feedback over a short period of time. So it's one of those situations that like I take it now, even when I talk, like you said, you coach. I actually went back and coached at Stanford for a year, 2019.
Awesome.
And it was one of those things where like I felt like when I decided to stop playing, I thought I had all of this football knowledge, and I was like, if I don't give this to someone or a group of guys, like it's a waste. Just taking up space in my brain. And so like I have a hard time watching football as a casual fan. I'm always like looking at something. So I wanted to give that knowledge back, and seeing that like, okay, hey, look, there's some guys that are super talented but not coachable. Or they come off as coachable, but look, we went over this how many times, and when it shows up in game time, you still make the wrong decision. That's not being coachable. Right? You're gonna make mistakes, but like, dude, we drilled this one. And we said, there's not in football at any level, there's not that many true 100%ers. But when you practice the 100%er that you know, and we call the right plays called, and the plays there to be made, and it's not made. As a coach, I realized, man, that's a stab in the heart. And so, but at the same time, you have. I saw that there were guys that super coachable, wanted to be a sponge, wanted to learn everything, always asked why. You know, I think someone told me one time, I use this analogy a lot. It's you know, like there are different types of people. There's some people that want to know what time it is. Give them the time, cool, I'm on it. Some people will ask the time and say, what kind of watch is that? And there's some people that want to know how the watch is built. You know, and there's nothing wrong with being, you need, especially if you're building a team, you need people at all those different levels. But I have a great appreciation for the ones, I feel like I was that person where I was like, I'm not just gonna go with what you told me. Tell me why. So that I can apply it to not just this play, but like to other things that come up. So I think coachability is huge.
That's awesome. Yeah, so true. I can't stress that enough. You know, coachability and friendability too. You know what I mean? Like be a good friend. You know, sometimes it's just take, and you know, listen to my problems and let me be that sounding board. But you know, sometimes people need to take a step back and say, how can I be a good friend to that person too, who has always been a good friend to me?
Absolutely.
So I like that. All right, so we're wrapping up here. I got the last question for you. So what life advice would you give to younger athletes? And kind of the second part of that question is what is some life advice you would give to your younger self, maybe your 8 or 9-year-old self, if you got to speak to that person?
Man, I think we've touched on a lot of those points that I would give to younger athletes in general. I think mainly to kind of put it broadly is like take advantage of your platform. And it doesn't have to be a huge one. You don't have to be the best athlete on the best team in the country, but like take advantage of the opportunities that are afforded to you by being put in that situation, right? And I think that's one thing I try to tell every kid that I encounter, because I think some of the biggest differences in some people's situations in life are just that they weren't exposed to this knowledge or this opportunity, didn't have access to it, couldn't take advantage of it. And honestly, if you are and you waste it, shame on you.
Yeah.
So really take advantage of your platform, whatever that might be, and like don't be afraid to make yourself uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, and that could be as simple as, you know, you get to do some community event and you're like, man, I don't know if I want to like go be a part of this. Or, you know, you start thinking about like, oh, how much time is that going to take? Just go, 'cause you never know who you're going to meet.
Yeah.
You never know what life you're gonna impact. And that simple little, just you being there.
Yeah.
Could be a huge change for someone and end up affecting your life in a positive way as well.
Yeah.
And then I think what I would tell myself, like 8, 9, 10, is just, you know, continue to put your head down and grind.
Yeah.
And kind of, in the end, I would say, you know, continue to be open to different opportunities that show up, that don't seem like they're a fit, but like you said, you don't know who you're going to meet.
Yeah.
And the world is way smaller than we think. I know I mentioned the sports world, but like the world as a whole, I can't tell you how many times in a day that I go through and have a random meeting, and I somehow, me and this other individual somehow know the same person, or we're at a similar conference or event, or you know, have some type of shared experience that, like, unknowingly, that in the end goes back to like how you know someone. Could be the difference in someone wanting to learn more about you and wanting to work with you, or kind of see you as just like a spam call.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
So
yeah,
like,
exactly,
or like someone
exactly.
that they're just like, all right, you're passing in the wind. So just, you know, continue to put yourself out there.
I love it. I can't agree more. And man, there's so many just good nuggets and so many good things, takeaways, you know, that, you know, you talked about. And I know a lot of people will get a lot of, you know, hopefully just, you know, motivation, you know, from this, and just, you know, understanding that, you know, there's, you know, mindset is big, and that's one thing I talk about, right? And having the right mindset and having the right people around you, you know. You know, it sounds like, you know, you were blessed enough to, you know, have your dad play in the NFL, but, you know, you took that and ran with it, right? Again, you took advantage of your opportunity. We all have unique opportunities in our lives, right? It's a matter of what we do with those opportunities, right? I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of professional athletes who have kids who never, you know, played and wanted to play, but they never played because, you know, maybe they had that mindset growing up of, okay, everything's easy, you know, and then you get to the sports world and you know, I mean, you know, playing in the NFL, playing in the NHL, playing in the MLB, you know, playing as a professional athlete, you have to be the best of the best. You can't fake that, right?
No.
You know, and obviously, you know, you can make the argument that, all right, you know, Bronny may get better looks than somebody else, but, you know, again, stats don't lie, right? Like, just because, you know, if anything, right, like if I'm playing Bronny in high school or whoever, whatever, you know, mega sports athlete, you know, son, like, I'm going at him, right? Like, you know, I'm going at him. So the argument is, like, you know, especially, you know, with you being a son of an NFL player, like maybe they went at you a little harder, right? Because they wanted to prove a point to you and prove a point to everybody else that, you know, I'm that level as well too. You know, I'll never forget I coached against Mario Lemieux's son, man, you know, and I wasn't playing at the time, but I was coaching against him, and the kids on the team just you know, literally just went at him, right? You know, they would hit, but they made sure they, you know, tried to hit him a little harder. So, but yeah, so many good points just is from everything, you know, from what you talked about, and I can't thank you enough. And you know, if anyone wanted to kind of, you know, get more information about you, I know you mentioned you're not on Instagram, but any other socials or anything like that?
Only social I have is LinkedIn.
Okay, smart man.
Yeah, all I have is LinkedIn. So my dad and I share a name. So
Okay.
I'm Ed Reynolds the second.
Okay, the second. Okay.
If you wanna, the picture should do it justice. He's 63 now. You know, there's a difference. Don't get me wrong. He looks good for his age, but it's different. And yeah, that and business website is amplioglobal.net. You check us out. But other than that, I stay pretty low key when it comes. Like I said, I like interactions that are referral based and genuine, or like just genuine interactions at certain things. And but yeah, you can find me there.
Nice. Hey, again, can't thank you enough. I really appreciate it, and thank you guys for making it this far. And again, thank you for watching Listen Up Me Learn Something Today podcast. I will see you guys next time.
Peace.